Good morning, Inkies. Just a quick intro. I've actually finished the page and everything, but I realized that I didn't actually do an intro. I just got straight into the drawing, so I'll do a quick one the next day before I edit all this together. We're doing the pick for July, and I put the prompt somewhere safe, of course, and now the prompt is missing. But anyway, the colors were, the medium was gouache. So these are the gouaches that I had picked out of my collection. Pink, green and yellow were the colors that were picked, and the element was fruit and the word was refreshing. And it wasn't too bad. My palette is here. It's nice and messy and a little bit needs a good soak, which I'm going to do today because I have to get all the acrylic gouache off it, because once acrylic gouache dries, it is gone, can't use it anymore. So I've only got little bits and pieces of the acryla? Is it acryla? Am I saying it wrong? Acryla, yeah, acryla, like acrylic gouache basically. So I have picked a couple of pinks. I didn't have very many yellows. I literally had two, and I wish I had one that was more like a Queen Gold, but I couldn't do that. This one says ice green, so I kind of took liberty with that. So I have a couple of greens. This one was like a lime green, but sort of semi-yellow. And then I've got this says pale lilac, but it's close enough to pink for my liking. So I went with that, but not in the actual picture, more for the sort of details around the side. So they are the gouaches that I used. I also state at the end of the video, and I'm going to state it here at the start as well, if you don't own gouache, if you don't own these colors, sub something in. You do not need to have the exact stuff to do this challenge. I do not condone you going out to buy special supplies to do a monthly challenge. If you are new here, hello and welcome. Choose Your Own Adventure journaling is something that I created and thought up in the shower last year sometime, and it was a challenge we could do monthly, and I would show you my take, and then you guys would get involved and would post our work in the Facebook group for people to see how we interpret it. It's basically to think outside the box. If you're having a little bit of funk with your journaling and you're not quite sure, you know, you just feel stuck and you're doing the same things, or you want to try something new, or you just want a challenge. Basically, it is to pick a medium, and it was any medium. So there's been collage, we've had watercolor, we've had a whole heap of stuff, and it was to pick a color palette of a minimum of 3 colors. So you could have more colors, but minimum of 3. And it was to pick an element, which was some people have picked butterflies, cupcakes. We've done a whole heap of stuff: stars, trees, portraits, and I have gotten you guys to come up with the prompts. I've added none of the prompts, and I'll put a link down below to the prompt list where you can cut them up and do it yourself. I choose one every month, and I do my take on it, and then there is also a word to include as well. So it's just something fun. It's very much like the Take 5, but sort of more structured, and it's been a real treat to sort of try and push my boundaries. Especially, there have been some weeks where I've really struggled with it, but I enjoy the challenge of trying something new and pushing me to do things that I don't normally do. And that was the whole premise behind it. It was so that we could do things differently in our journals and just enjoy someone else taking the reins for us in our journaling life. So that is the premise behind Choose Your Own Adventure. And so this is my take on this month's prompt. So I hope you enjoy, and I will talk to you soon.
I totally apologize in advance that I'm using my pink pencil to draw. I love to draw in pink. It gives a softness to my drawings. It means that I can be a little bit more freer with my lines. I feel when drawing with graphite, it's sort of more ingrained, more visual. You can see it more, you can see a lot more of the mistakes. I feel like it's a lot harsher, and there's a time and a place when I will draw in graphite quite happily, but when I'm drawing something that I haven't drawn in ages, I can't remember the last time I drew a pineapple, and even then it's a very stylized pineapple. It's not realistic. I'm not using any sort of visual representation off onto the side, like I'm not copying anything. I'm literally just drawing it from my head, and making sure it's got a few little signs that look like a pineapple. Now, because I'm doing a face on the pineapple, I also have changed the way that the spikes on top of the pineapple look. I make it more like a facial feature than an actual pineapple. What are they called? Spikes? Prongs? What's that top bit? The head of a pineapple? I don't have them pointing straight up, which is generally what you see when you see a real life one. Because I've turned it into a face, I've made the spikes look more like hair than what it actually is, which is, I can't even think of the word, but that's kind of what I like to do. And it's my journal page, and I know it's a pineapple, and I've given it the signifiers, so like the diamond like pattern on the pineapple. I don't do it all over. I just use it as a sort of like a pattern, or like a facial, like a birthmark or a freckle or something. I'm doing a really bad job at explaining this. I'm just making it look cute, guys. I'm making it look cute because that's what I do. I turn things that are inanimate into animate objects.
Close your eyes and let us fade away. Build a secret place for you and me. Let our minds be caught up in a dream. Standing underneath the lights, look into each other's eyes.
Now, I've kept this drawing speed at 2 times fast, so you're not seeing it super fast, but you are seeing the painting of these vegetables and fruits done in a faster speed, which you'll see in a second. And that's purely because I spend a lot of time mixing and painting over things and shading things, and I feel like that takes a lot of time. Like, this page took me around about an hour and a half of just faffing about and getting a feel for it. I don't work with gouache very often. I do try and manipulate it with adding more water to make it more like a watercolor so that I feel comfortable with it, but I do really love the opaqueness of the gouache. The acrylic one is more like acrylic paint than watercolor. Like, it doesn't water down very well, whereas the ones that I've got, the Winsor & Newton ones and the Caran d'Ache ones, when added with water, work really nicely. But I loved mixing them and having some more opaque and some more see-through, and really playing up that aspect where we can have opaque areas working as highlights and things like that. But I really enjoyed this whole prompt. This was called Ice Green, guys, so don't judge me. It says green in the title, but when I applied it, I was like, man, this is blue. So I had to add in some of my green. I did mix quite a few colors because I had several shades of them to try and get some variance. Although my yellows, I only had 2, and they weren't the right shade. I wish I had a more golden yellow, a deeper, darker yellow in my stash. But like I said at the beginning, and like I say at the end, there is no reason to purchase stuff in order to do these challenges. So I don't recommend going out and buying gouache. If you don't own it, change it up. Just change it to watercolor, change it to color pencils, change it to markers. It's not the be all and end all if you don't have the supplies. And I didn't have a darker yellow. I wasn't going out to buy myself a darker yellow to make this page work. I just used what I had and then came in at the end with some colored pencils like I do.
Try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh, where the darkness starts to fade.
The brushes I'm using in today's video are the Mab Grave set that she released with the brand. What brand did she release them with? The Treacle brushes. I have them in all the different sizes. I bought the entire set. I love them for using with acrylics, and I sometimes use them for watercolor, but mainly for when I'm doing acrylic paint. And because gouache really works like an acrylic paint in most senses, I use these, but I always made sure that I washed them out thoroughly, because the acrylic gouache When it dries hard. So if I was to not wash my brush properly, I could definitely ruin them. But I loved using these brushes. I used a couple of sizes and some rounds and some flats, but they are fantastic brushes and I'm really glad that I took the plunge. Although it cost me a little bit of money being in Australia and the shipping from the store and stuff, I really enjoyed this set of brushes and I'm pretty sure they are synthetic brushes from memory. I don't think you can get them anymore. I will see if I can find them. But again, just use what you have, guys. And I love using these brushes. And they're pink, man. They're pink. I had to buy them. I really did. I sat there thinking, what could I possibly use the pinks for, because pink fruit doesn't really exist, and so I just decided to use my pinks, because I love them, as page decoration, because I didn't really want to add pink pops to my cheeks. I did use the pink to sort of darken the yellow to make a pathetic neon orange to sort of give those triangles, which were the pineapple signifiers, like the patterning on the pineapple, so to make them pop out a bit because they didn't have darker yellow or anything like that. And I really kind of like the funky look. It really adds to the whimsical feel of the fact that there's a pineapple with a face on it. So I'm not mad about the fact that I didn't. I like the feature. I did, once I'd done it, I committed and I was like, oh well, we've done it now, may as well keep going. But I really liked using the pink around the edges of my page. The neon pink from the acrylic gouache is so bomb. I actually bought 2 tubes of it when I was in New York because I loved how crazy vibrant it is. I loved it. I realized that I needed to start using some of my darker pencils to sort of accent those facial features, because the pink pencil was just, it was fading all into the background. I didn't want to use pen because I wasn't ready to commit those dark pen lines just yet, so I ended up using a water-soluble graphite, and that meant that if I wanted to darken anything up and give some shadowing, I could definitely just activate that pencil with some water, or I could just leave it as is. And I'm pretty sure I don't think I activated it at all. I did come in with a black pen a little bit later on just to add some dimension to the eyes, darken those areas up, but generally I really liked the look of the graphite. I'm a firm believer in graphite lines. I think they look really lovely. They look really organic, and it's a lot looser than if I came in and lined everything with black pen. Sometimes I feel when you come in with a black pen, it really stifles the feel of an image. It really makes it look harsh. You have to be really precise with your lines, otherwise you mess it up. But with pencil, you can still get away with that really beautiful sketchy feel, and I generally love that feel over a really pristine, perfect inked line. And maybe that's because I am so imperfect with my art and I don't want to struggle trying to be perfect. It would just take away the joy from the experience. So if you're feeling like your art looks very strong, straight edged, very harsh, try some graphic pencil. Try and do your sketches with that. Add some colored pencil, add some of the looser mediums, and stop trying to sort of box yourself into harsh lines from black ink. I sometimes feel that inking can just take the joy out of the creating process because you're trying to make everything so perfect, making sure that once you've inked that line, there's no going back. So get out your graphic pencils, your lead pencils, graphite, not graphic. Get out those, get your colored pencils out. You can draw on colored pencil. Yeah, you can't erase unless they're the fancy pencils, but I really do think that you can relax your art by using pencil instead of going with pen. Not everything needs an outline. Some of my favorite artists have no outlines at all, or if they do, they have block colored stuff with really bare minimum outlines. And I love that look. It feels so much looser and more relaxed and not so uptight. And I always want that feeling in my own illustrations.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let
Fully realized at this point that I've drawn a broccoli, and I looked over at the prompt and the element is fruit, so I've got some fruit there, so technically I'm still safe. but I probably should have like subbed in like an apple or something like that, but I really like the broccoli, so I'm gonna stick with the broccoli. Plus I'm having a hard time. I wish I had like a more golden yellow for some highlight, so because I've done the majority in gouache and because of my limited amount of gouache, I may come in with some colored pencil just to give some more definition, because I tried darkening my yellow with what I've got with the greens and stuff. I just don't have the I don't have the ability to darken my yellow without it turning into like a fluoro orange, which is what I did there. But I kind of went for a more creative version of the pineapple. But I think I will use some colored pencil because I don't really have that many gouaches. My acrylic gouache is currently, I've only got a couple of my colors here. And I'm pretty sure I don't have a yellow in the acrylic anyway, so it would be useless. I generally don't have heaps of gouache, so I'm just working with this limited amount of stuff that I have. I've got quite a few greens for some reason, and the only two yellows I've got are like the pale creamy yellow, and then I happen to find this one which is not like a golden yellow, just to give more depth. So I will go in with some colored pencil after that, but the majority of it's painted with gouache, which is the whole point of it. Once I finish painting the broccoli, I'll finish up the page with some photographs and some text and things. But I've got a couple of shades of green here for the broccoli, so that's all good. I'm trying to use my gouache while it's still wet, because gouache obviously dries really hard. The acrylic gouache is a mixture of gouache and acrylic paint, so when it dries it's done for. You can't re-wet it. With normal gouache you can sort of re-wet it with some water. It's kind of like if acrylic paint and watercolor had a baby, you'd get gouache. But the acrylic ones from who are these guys? Holbein, which I grabbed in New York when I was there a while ago. Once they dry in the pan, like on here, it's over Red Rover. So I thought I'd better, you know, get on with painting my broccoli. I've made a new cup of tea. I'm going to put a studio vlog, or maybe even Burgess's newest bullet journal, One Book July video on, and listen as I paint away my little broccoli man.
There's not a huge amount that I can tell you about this process, because it's basically the same as it was for the pineapple. I'm using a variant of greens, some yellow greens, some bottle greens, some apple greens, and just mixing the three and adding them together to add the darks and the lights to my little broccoli guy. I did take a lot more time coloring him in than the pineapple, and I think that's because I was trying to get all the different shades of him. If I went in with all the one shade, he would look very flat and very one-dimensional. And I'm not saying that the character that I end up with is super three-dimensional, but those shadows and light parts really do play a huge part in how he looks, and he doesn't just look like he's flat on the page. I really enjoyed painting the broccoli. Although green's not one of my favorite colors, I actually really do enjoy this kind of shades of green. I really enjoyed this prompt. I wasn't too sure how it was going to go, because it just didn't suit my journaling style, I guess. But it happened that the theme that I was talking about was definitely one that was on my mind. It had been on my mind, so it just goes to show that even the randomest prompts, and yes, I did draw vegetables as well as fruit, even the randomest prompts can definitely spark ideas and a journaling prompt session. It can just definitely make you think about other things that are maybe swimming in the back of your mind that you didn't realize were starting to weigh on you, but not at the forefront of your worries, but it's sitting there in the back kind of niggling at you. And definitely my health and stuff is one of those things that have been niggling at the back of my mind, especially when I'm feeling, you know, not myself. I'm not feeling comfortable in my skin, my clothes are not fitting as nicely as they used to, and I've just sort of given up. Not given up, I have been very lax in my behavior, and I'm not taking care of myself. I spend so much time working and taking care of my family that I've kind of just let myself go, and I am definitely feeling the effects of that. So this prompt really made me start thinking about my health and all those sorts of things. So Leanne, thanks for bringing out those demons, although I think they needed to come out in order for me to start fighting them. So I definitely appreciate the prompt, and it's interesting that something as simple as this challenge has definitely sparked a movement in my own life. And my husband and I are just sort of getting our stuff together to start a whole sort of health journey together. And it's strange that a prompt could be so, I'm not going to say life-changing because that sounds cheesy, but it definitely did help in my mindset to go forth.
Today and not tomorrow. There's no time to borrow. Today, well, something's gotta give. Today is a good day. Today and not tomorrow. There's no.
I did come in with some colored pencils at the end to give some definition that I just couldn't do with my own hands and my skill with a paintbrush. I always love to top my illustrations with colored pencil. I think that sort of texture really enhances a picture, and obviously I didn't have certain colors for my pineapple. I probably will go back in with some browns around my eyes and stuff for my pineapple, which I didn't do in this video. But now that I'm looking at it as I edit this video, he definitely needs a bit more definition around his facial features. But I really enjoyed how this whole process came about, and I really loved the whole prompt and how the page looks in the end. And I just I like it a lot, and I'm glad that I pushed through and had a play. And I really like my broccoli guy. Like I think he's buff AF.
I guess I'm lonely. I'm starting to grow old, and I thought my youth would last forever. Take me back to when we were kids and didn't care if we were acting stupid, 'cause all we had was us. If I close my eyes and think about us, I can see the person I know I should be. 'Cause honestly, I don't have no time to waste. I'm trying to come back to you, because now I see we were meant to be. Where are you now? Heard you live far away, but just tell me where and I'll come see ya. 'Cause I'm afraid that I'll end up here alone. Hope you'll understand how much I need ya. Take me back to when we were kids and didn't care if we were acting stupid, 'cause all we had was us. If I close my eyes and think about us, I can see the person I know I should be. 'Cause honestly, I don't have no time to waste. I'm trying to come back to you, because now I see we were meant
I printed out some quotes and a photograph, a couple of bits and pieces to think that I've kind of wanted to use. And then in the end, I didn't end up using these 2 quotes, so I'm going to have to put them aside for another thing. It just didn't suit the look. And because the page is so bright and colorful, you know I always go to a black and white photo. This is actually quite an old photograph of me. And I look a lot healthier in this photo. I look a lot happier, and I think I remember feeling a lot better about myself in this photo. I did cut out my little cloud guy and then realized he had no home on this page, and I don't know why. I thought he would suit, so I actually put him on a different page. And because the word was refreshing, I actually decided to use the word refresh instead of refreshing, because it suited my theme so much more. This is me fiddling around with that sticker. And I decided to use the border to be a sort of positive quote thing. Definitely trying to give myself pep talks around the border, because there were such huge portions of color. They just needed to be, there needed something there, and I didn't want to spend all my time doing intricate background or patterns, so I went with really big graphite text.
Part of me thought you would have fought it. Can't say that I was surprised.
Alright, I think I am done for today. I have been chopping away, like tinkering with this page for way too long today, and I think it's time to just let it be what it is and enjoy it how it is. I just, oh geez, sharp pencil. I just need to sit down and do some journaling. Obviously I didn't use the word refreshing, I used the word refresh because I wanted to do like a sort of I don't know, like a motivational health page for myself. One of my goals coming into the second half of the year is to take better care of my health and to try and kickstart my weight loss, because obviously I've put some of my weight back on from my surgery, and I don't want it to get to a point where I'm exactly where I was before my surgery, and I just want to sort of bear down and be really sort of hyper focused on that aspect of my life for a little bit. Hubby and I have just invested in an elliptical machine. Treadmill finally died after having it for years and years and years, and I quite enjoyed the elliptical machine at the gym. So we put one of those onto Afterpay, and that is coming in about 2 weeks, and just sort of getting on track and doing a lot of exercise prior to coming to Japan, because that was one thing we did when we went last time, was we did a stack of walking to get ready for Japan. Obviously nothing compares to actually being there and sort of walking daily for crazy amounts of hours where your body is just absolutely screaming at you, but generally I like to do a lot of exercise before we go on holiday, but I also want to make it something that happens in my routine anyway. So I think the elliptical would be great. I really enjoyed it before, so hopefully I enjoy it again. It's been quite a while since I've been on one, since I don't go to the gym anymore. My gym partner is my girlfriend from primary school. Well, not primary school. I met her when our kids started school, but she's since gotten a job, and because I don't drive, it was just too hard for me to get to the gym every day without her, because we used to go together. So I just thought, bugger it, I'll do some exercise at home, and obviously the elliptical was quite fun, all that sort of jazz. So I wanted to sort of use the prompt as a way to have like a kickstartery pep talk. So this little entry in here will all be about positive affirmations and, you know, psyching myself up for it and sort of getting in that mindset of changing my eating habits and changing all that sort of stuff. So I thought having all the border with some sort of positive quote things. I did print quotes out, but when I looked at them, they just look like they wouldn't suit this style, so I'll save them for a later date. This is obviously an older photo of me. I think it's about almost 2 years old, but I decided to use something like that rather than a sad looking photo, because it's meant to be sort of semi uplifting. Went with black and white because obviously the page has a lot of color on it anyway. and I will sit down with my trusty pen and sort of start writing out. I've been getting my writing bits and pieces done in between everything when I can. But I'm about to lose light because it's in the afternoon now. I might sit down right now while it's fresh in my mind and I'm thinking about it and sort of psyching myself up for the next couple of months leading up to Japan. Obviously, I want to get back in shape for that holiday, and I've got my husband's work party and just a whole lot of other things that niggle at me. And I don't feel happy in my body at the moment. I don't feel attractive. I don't feel any of those describing words. I kind of just feel a bit slothy, a bit sluggish, and generally just not taking care of myself. So it's time to sort of get that energy and that thought process into the second half of the year and really push hard, because I've just sort of let things go. I've been lazy in my eating habits. I'm not eating the right foods. I'm not exercising. I'm not drinking enough water. I'm not doing any of the things that you're meant to be doing, and so I don't want that to become my life again. So while I can, I am going to take charge of it, because I don't want to end up being helpless and sad and everything like I was before. And obviously I could go back and get a revised surgery, but I don't want to admit defeat just yet. So that's enough drama for today, but I hope you enjoyed my little weird take on to this month's Choose Your Own Adventure. I actually quite enjoyed it, and it's something that you guys haven't really seen me do recently, like draw and illustrate and paint and use gouache. I don't know whether I did a very good job with the gouache, but I quite like how it turned out. And both my vegetables and fruit don't look that impressed, but neither am I going to look very impressed while I'm getting ready for this stage to sort of implement itself. But I can't wait to see what kind of fruit you guys do. Pink in the mix, that was one thing. There's no pink fruit. When I was sitting there going, oh yeah, I got pink, and I think Leanne put the pink in there just, you know, for me, and that's why I use pink in my accent bits around my page. But definitely there's no pink fruit, and I had not that many gouaches to use. Again, if you're doing this challenge and you don't own gouache, just use acrylic paint or watercolor. Sub in your medium. You don't need to go out and buy the supplies to do these challenges. I never ever promote going out and getting stuff that you don't need. It's just to do a challenge. Definitely sub something in. That's the whole point of it. I happen to have gouache. I don't have a very large range, and as you can see, I had to sort of make do with what I had. But definitely I do not condone going out and buying supplies for the sake of this. Please don't. So have a wonderful day, guys, and the thread will be in the Facebook group. Put your things down below in the thread so we can see what your take is on it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them down below and let me know if you like the page. All right, have a lovely day. Bye.